right now on theGrio.
Households. Take notes on this.
No writers, no new shows. Hollywood is dark as film and TV writers fight for better pay.
Pins down, fist up. Pins down, fist up.
They also don't want their jobs taken in the future by artificial intelligence. This fight could go on for a while.
We in this together. You can't take down one of us without taking down all of us. And we all need to be standing 10 toes down with each other.
Will they win or lose? And what will it mean for your favorite TV show? I'm Touré. theGrio with Marc Lamont Hill starts now. Thank you for joining us tonight on theGrio. I'm Touré, filling in for Marc Lamont Hill, who has the day off. In Hollywood, the writers remain on strike and at war with the studios that produce the shows and movies we love. Many of your favorites have had to stop production because of this strike. The Writers Guild of America has been on the picket line since May 1st, and there's no end in sight. The two sides seem very far apart. The writers are pushing for more money, but they're also dug in deep because they can't allow a future where artificial intelligence is writing movies and shows. This impacts what's available on the streaming services you subscribe to, the movie theaters, the podcast, maybe even the news, as other unions like SAG-AFTRA show solidarity. This entire show is dedicated to the writers, production staff, content creators who have earned and deserve justice in this fight. We begin tonight with producer and writer Eric Haywood, a member of the Writers Guild of America West and the Board of Directors and Negotiating Committee. Eric, welcome to theGrio.
Thank you for having me.
So tell us exactly and clearly and directly, what is the WGA asking for?
Well, that's probably a longer and more involved answer than you honestly have time for, but let me try to boil it down for you and make it as simple as I possibly can. Like most labor disputes, this one ultimately comes down to two primary issues: compensation and working conditions. So everybody's familiar with streaming, obviously, right? Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, what have you. If you are of a certain age, you probably remember a time when your average TV show ran a 22, maybe as high as 25 episode season. And that amount of work, that amount of writing work required writers to be employed somewhere around 9 to 10 months out of the year to produce a given season. At a certain point, things changed. We saw a shift towards shorter, like 13 episode seasons. And then 10 episode seasons became the norm. And now we're looking at a lot of shows where you average 6 to 8 episodes. So nowadays, instead of working 9 to 10 months and having relatively stable employment, a lot of writers are working 14 weeks, 20 weeks at a time. That's because the advent of streaming has basically taken an industry that has worked relatively well for decades. It was never perfect, obviously, but it turned writers into gig workers, hopping from one short-term job to another, and in some cases, hopping from a short-term job into long-term unemployment. So what we're trying to do is not throw streaming out the window. We know that's impossible as well as impractical, but we're asking the studios to acknowledge that they've basically broken a system that has been working for a long time, and to compensate writers more equitably for the value that we create.
Okay, so the money part is one big part of this, but we know also there's another side. The studios would love to try having artificial intelligence, AI, write the movies and TV shows, saving them millions. Is the prospect of AI taking writers' jobs making it that much harder to make a deal than if this was just about money?
Well, I think your question kind of separates two things that can't really be separated, because like I said, it's all about both compensation and working conditions. So, and the use of AI honestly incorporates both. But even if you took AI completely out of the equation, we would still have some fundamental disagreements with the studios about how this business is being run and how it's become harder and harder for writers to make a living and feed their families, plan vacations, take care of aging, parents, and what have you.
But the AI part is very important. Let's talk about that. How do we get studios to negotiate and say, we'll never use computers to generate content? I mean, like, how do we see newsrooms saying, okay, we're never going to use AI to write our news stories. But the writers need the studios to say, we're not going to use AI, or the writers will eventually be out of jobs.
Well, let's back up. I don't think getting the studios to pledge to never use AI has ever been the goal. First and foremost, what the writers are asking for of the studios with respect to AI is to offer a response to the proposals that we've made to them. And they've told us point blank back during our negotiations that they just weren't interested in doing that. So typically, when you're in negotiations, one side makes a proposal, the other side makes a counter proposal, and you go back and forth until you arrive at a middle ground where both sides are a little bit happy and a little bit unhappy. That's basically, the art of compromise, right? So we wanted both sides to agree to regulate the use of AI, not ban it outright. They said no. We wanted both sides to agree that AI can't be used as source material for TV shows and movies. They said no. We wanted both sides to agree that AI can't write or rewrite literary material. They said no. And at a certain point, you have to ask yourself, well, what are they planning? Why are they so defensive and so protective of this that they're not even willing to engage in a conversation? Because given the history of Hollywood, I think it would be foolish for us to close our eyes and just take it on faith that they have our best interests at heart when it comes to AI. They don't want to have a conversation about it. Our position is, guess what? You're going to have a conversation about it.
Is there negotiation happening now, or are the sides not even talking?
The sides are not talking right now. Our previous contract expired on May 1st. There haven't been any formal negotiations taking place since then. Studios are currently in negotiations with the Actors Union, SAG-AFTRA. We've basically been waiting for them to come back to the negotiating table with the serious intention of bargaining in good faith, and we're still waiting. But we're not just waiting. We're 9 weeks into this strike, and all these picket lines you've seen, not just in Los Angeles, but in New York and in Chicago and in New Mexico and Cape Cod, those are a clear indication of our members' resolve. And we can't go back to them with a new contract that does not secure their future.
We see the actors' resolve. We see lots of strikes going on in lots of places. What is the WGA able to do to help these people so they can last longer in this strike?
Well, there have been a number of things. I'm going to take a minute to just sort of plug our website, if you don't mind. It is WGAcontract2023.org. If you go to that website, there's a drop-down menu that says Strike Assistance. And under that tab, there are a number of financial resources that are available, not just to members of the Writers Guild, but members of the entertainment community in general. There's the Writers Guild of America Strike Fund. There's the Writers Guild Good and Welfare Fund. There's also an unrelated charity called the Entertainment Community Fund that provides financial assistance, again, not just to writers, but to assistants, to crew people, to directors, anyone in the entertainment community that's been impacted by this labor action.
If the actors said, we're all going on strike, we're not creating anything, we're not going to be part of anything until this is resolved, would that create more power for the writers to try to bring the studios to the table?
I think it's indisputable that if the actors were to go on strike, it would change the sort of trajectory of what the writers are doing, as well as give the actors more leverage to fight for the things that they're fighting for. But let's be clear, these TV shows and movies aren't technically on strike. If you're a director, if you're an actor, if you're a teamster who drives the equipment trucks, your unions are on strike. You basically have an obligation to show up for work. But here's what we've seen over the last 9 weeks. We've seen actors honoring our picket lines. We've seen teamsters and IATSE members honor the picket lines and refuse to cross. There are people who are making tremendous sacrifices to stand in solidarity with the writers. They recognize that our fight is their fight too. So I want to thank them, but I also want to point out when enough workers refuse to cross the picket line, guess what happens? production begins to slow down, if not shut down entirely. We've seen movies and TV shows all across the country post-production until the strike is resolved. Some of them won't even get started because the strike is still going on. So it's really more, our focus has been on the people who have been standing with us. Everybody from the President of the United States to professional athletes unions to Snoop Dogg have all come and been on the same side. They're saying the same things to the companies. Give these writers a fair deal.
Eric Haywood, producer, writer, and WGA spokesman, thank you for joining us. Still ahead on theGrio, if the strike continues for much longer, could robots end up writing the scripts? We're going to take a look at the future of artificial intelligence in Hollywood. But first, will our favorite shows survive? We're going to get insight from some of the top industry insiders when we come back. You're watching theGrio. Tens of thousands of Hollywood writers have been on strike since May, putting many of our favorite shows on pause. But what are the writers fighting for? Welcome back to theGrio. I'm Touré, in for Marc Lamont Hill. This is a special hour focused on the Hollywood film and TV writers' strike.
One will kill to protect what he has.
Your statements help throw the 5 families into disarray.
The other to demand what he hasn't.
Scream as loud as you can from deep inside.
I think I just felt something.
Those are clips from The Godfather of Harlem and The Wonder Years reboot. Those shows, like hundreds of others, are on pause because of the writer's strike, which means thousands of people are out of work. Everyone you see in the credits of many TV shows and movies, out of work. Here's a pair of Hollywood insiders to talk more about the strike's impact. Joining me now, Jackie Edmonds Coffer, an executive producer of The Wonder Years. She's also had a long line of credits from iconic shows we all love, like Martin, Moesha, and Living Single. I'm also joined by Markuann Smith, an actor and executive producer, best known for bringing us the MGM drama, The Godfather of Harlem. Welcome to both of you. Markuann, what's the most important thing that the writers are holding out for?
From being on picket lines and being solidified with these guys, a lot of them are very, very worried about the as we would say, episodes being bought. For a while back it was 22 to 23 episodes. That was the norm, and now it's dwindling down to 10 to 8 episodes. The writers' rooms are getting smaller. So these individuals, these writers, they're just looking for a fair shake to be able to provide for family, to be able to constantly work and not just have 14 to 20 weeks of work.
Jackie, what do you think are the most important issues for you that you want the WGA to get for you?
Well, I think a couple of things that Eric mentioned, what Markuann was just saying about shortened rooms, shortened season orders, means that a lot of writing work is disconnected from production. So when I started, you would write and produce all 22 or 26 episodes. Now writers are let go, and then production might be done at a distant location. And so there's no education for starting writers to rise up the ranks and become executive producers and really learn all the ins and outs. So that's one thing that we're trying to protect by asking for a reconnection of the writing and production, as well as what Markuann was saying, which is just pay us fairly. Writers' real wages have declined in double digits over the past 10 years because of the shortened seasons.
Markuann, do you guys have enough time left to get your demands met? Because a big strike like this becomes an endurance race. Who can stand to lose money longer, the industry or the workers? So can the writers hold out longer than the studios can?
I was asked that question the other day, and to me, you're dealing with big bank, little bank, and these big studios are trying to squeeze these writers out, and it's affecting our audience, affects the creators. I mean, a lot of people are asking me, like, why is Godfather of Harlem so far apart and coming back on the screen? Right now, we don't even know what will happen or where we will be because of this writer's strike.
Jackie, a big part of this is artificial intelligence. Do you think it's possible for AI to write a good script? Are we nervous on a creative level that maybe one day we'll have to be competing with computers to writing these dramas and comedies? Do you think that you may see a future where AI is writing a first draft and then humans are overseeing it after that, or even worse?
I think given what Eric said, that seems to be the game plan. The fact they're not even entertaining a negotiation on artificial intelligence. Right now, I think AI can write a script. I don't know that it would be a good script or a producible script, but, the computers learn from themselves. They learn from us, and they learn very rapidly. So it is a scary future, and that's why I think it's on the table now, because we're always negotiating what could happen 3, 4, 5, 6 years from now, even 18 months from now.
Markuann, I don't think that AI or some computer could ever come up with The Godfather of Harlem or any of the more complex, very human dramas that we all love and watch. But the studios would love to try, right? Can we do it for less? Can we do it without someone like yourself saying, hey, I actually need something in this deal? Are you scared of a future where AI is competing for your job?
To be honest with you, I think that AI can be a good thing if we are able to use it as human beings and not cutting out the human necessity to write a script. I mean, writers go through fatigue, writers go through writer's block. They're dealing with deadlines and things of that sort. My thing is that to not cut out the part of a human being writing a script. If you can use AI for your best benefit to help you maybe dig deeper than you usually would use it for, I think it's a good thing. As long as the studio does not cut out and say, hey, we want to just use AI to do a first draft or write a script or break down a skeleton script but not have anyone involved in it, such as the writers, I think that's really the big problem right now.
Jackie, how do writers maintain morale through a long strike when you're not getting paid, you're not getting to do what you love, and you don't know what the future of your industry is?
Well, it's very difficult. This is my second strike, but this is I would say we have a large group of enthusiastic strikers. I think that all of us realize it's not just about money. With the AI issues and things, it's really an existential issue for us. And we're doing a lot to keep morale up on the picket line. We've had Beyonce pickets. We've had Prince pickets where we just play music while we march. We had Alumni Association pickets. We have an HBCU picket coming up. So, everybody's doing their best to keep morale up, to keep people's enthusiasm up, and to keep communication up between us so we can all support each other.
Markuann, we just had Eric come and say that the negotiations are not going on right now. Does that make you nervous, or make you think like you're trying to smoke the studios out?
No, that's very, very scary. As you know, the Directors Guild, they came to a conclusion a few weeks ago, and SAG, we're in the middle of negotiation right now. So to not be able to start having conversations with writers or start entertaining what's on the table, that's very, very scary.
Jackie, there's projects that are going on right now that were already written before the strike happened, or things that are saying, well, we can do it without writers. It seems to me that, you brought up to Eric, that if the actors went on strike, if all the television presenters and people in front of the camera went on strike, that would really force the studio's hands. What do you think about that? If the performers walked off of their shows, would the studios have to give in?
I think they would be a lot quicker to give in. They do have, especially on the feature side, the film's already written. In the pipeline in terms of television, pretty much we're all shut down. Even shows that were in production May 1st pretty much have all wound down or shut down. But with no actors, they really can't do much of anything. And, that includes commercials, that includes, voiceover, it includes just pretty much all of entertainment. So while they think, they might be able to do a Tony Awards without the writers, they can't do it without the actors.
On the other side, we want to name some of our favorite shows that are at risk. Plus, amid concerns about there not being enough seats at the table in Hollywood, black creators are building their own tables. The platform helping them reach new audience is ahead on theGrio. Welcome back to theGrio and a special hour dedicated to the Hollywood writer's strike. I'm Touré in for Marc Lamont Hill, who has the day off. Back with me, Jackie Edmonds Coffer, executive producer for The Wonder Years, and Markuann Smith, actor and executive producer who made the epics drama Godfather of Harlem. So we only have about 1.5 minutes left for this, but I'll ask you both quickly. Name the shows that you think might not survive this strike. Jackie, you go first.
Oh my goodness. Well, I I hope our show survives. Because so many shows are on the bubble just because of the timing of the strike right at the beginning of May sweeps. That pretty much all bets are off. They ordered very few pilots this year. So I'm kind of worried about all of us.
Markuann, what do you think?
No, I agree with Jackie. All bets are off. It's not even a pick and choose game right now. I think it's like all out like the Wild Wild West right now. You know, studios may take vengeance and say, "Hey, we don't want to renew this," or they're cutting a lot of overall deals. They're cutting a lot of first look deals. You guys aren't compromising with us. It's just like the Wild Wild West out here, Touré, to be honest with you. So to actually say what shows are in jeopardy, I think everything can be in jeopardy.
Rough times for my friends in the TV and Hollywood business. Stay strong, both of you, Jackie and Markuann. Thank you for your time. Next on theGrio, imagine a world where Hollywood studios didn't need writers or even actors to make movies. We'll talk to a futurist about whether an AI takeover of Hollywood is actually possible. Thank you for being with us on theGrio. I'm Touré, filling in for Marc Lamont Hill, who has the day off. Hollywood may soon have another strike on its hands. 1,000 actors have signed a letter authorizing the SAG-AFTRA union to strike by June 30th if conditions are not met. However, the Screen Actors Guild and Hollywood studios agreed to extend contract negotiations in hopes of avoiding an all-out strike. Several members of SAG have already joined the picket lines as a sign of solidarity. SAG-AFTRA doesn't just represent actors, they represent members of the entire broadcast television industry. Your favorite news anchor could be part of SAG-AFTRA. One of the central concerns in this strike is the possibility of artificial intelligence taking jobs from writers. The writers have said they need a contract that prevents members from losing income due to, quote, unregulated use of generative AI. Joining me now to discuss this is Sinead Bovell, a futurist and founder of tech education company WAYE. She's also a United Nations speaker on tech and the future. Sinead, welcome. Is AI currently able to write a quality Hollywood script?
The million-dollar question. I don't think it could. It could write a script. It could write an episode of something. It could write a movie, but it wouldn't be good at all. It would be very predictable, very fluff, similar to any of the AI systems that you're using to help you with, writing an email or whatever it may be. It's all kind of predictive jargon. So no, at this point in time, AI couldn't write a quality script. That might change going forward, but there's no phantom thread by AI in the near future.
Okay, good to know, but obviously technology is constantly improving, so in 10 or 15 or 20 years, there may be significant competition for writers from AI, but is there not something unique about human creativity that makes it hard for it to be copied and bettered by AI?
Yeah, I think that there is something special. Writers' scripts and their imaginations, that's the holy grail, really, of Hollywood when you think about it. And AI, while it doesn't possess that, it can mimic that. And that's why we're in this kind of strange debate time, trying to understand, is AI capable of mimicking creativity? And that could be all we really need to get to the end result. With storytelling, it is a little bit more challenging. You have to be able to have a plot that makes sense and character development, and all of those things are challenging for an AI. But what we could see in the more near-term future is a show that's a bit more formulaic, that maybe has a lot of past data, like a CSI, and AI coming in and kind of co-supporting something like that. So if you train the AI system on 100 past episodes and ask it for the next one, it still wouldn't be nearly as good as a human, but maybe we'll see those types of jobs be shared. And I do think that would be cause for concern for writers, absolutely.
So you seem to have less fear of AI taking creative jobs now than a lot of people. So is this an example of people being overly afraid of technology, or is it an example of how technology does take over certain jobs and make them obsolete, and humans have to learn how to adapt?
And I wouldn't say I am still fearful. I know that AI will change every single job, and it will take some. I just don't think the evolution of technology in Hollywood is new, right? The internet, CGI, AI already plays a big role in AI. We age actors, we age them. So I don't think the trend lines are entirely different. And if you look actually historically, it was the invention of the camera that birthed this industry called Hollywood. So Hollywood has always been built on technology. And so when we look going forward, it's not that and I think here's where we're kind of looking at it wrong. We see AI as what we call a point solution. Swap out a human writer and swap in AI. AI is a system solution. So the entire of Hollywood is going to be built on top of it. It's going to be embedded into the script writing systems. It's going to be embedded into the cameras. So it's always going to be human and AI going forward, which means creatives need to understand how to exploit and use AI for their own advantage, to expect it to be there. And so how can you use it for your own gain? And I think, where we've gone wrong with technology and the problem with streaming is that the wins weren't shared equally, right? So we saw that streaming led to all of this new boom of shows and content, but as resources won and other people got squeezed. So if we can look into the future and see how things might evolve, we could hopefully make things a bit more fair, or a lot more fair going forward.
I want to go back a second to something you said earlier, that answer that sounded a bit frightening. You said AI is going to affect every single job. I mean, like every job in America is going to be transformed by AI in some way?
I cannot think of a job that won't be. So maybe there are some that won't be, but I mean, AI is already a critical component of our lives, right? I can't get down the road without consulting Google Maps. If you use social media, if you have a credit card, it's AI doing the fraud detection. So AI is already kind of the backbone of how we live, and that's just going to continue going forward. I think if it is any bit of reassurance, around 85% of the jobs that exist today didn't exist 80 years ago. So again, it's not, these trend lines aren't necessarily new. It's just the types of jobs technology is now able to potentially do. That's what feels foreign, because to us, creativity is something we thought that was uniquely human, and to see it be mimicked by AI, it's quite alarming. I think where I would focus in is on things like intellectual property and copyright, and the way that writers and actors have contributed to Hollywood. And is that going to be what trains their replacement? And I think that that's a problem. And I really do support making sure that contracts are fair, and that doesn't happen.
I think the writers are rightfully afraid of the impact of AI on their industry. And we're seeing lots of futurists and technologists and people who understand this stuff extremely well saying we should be afraid of the future of AI, and it's teaching itself. And should writers, should all of us be afraid of the future of this technology?
I think we should be cautious, but we do have to lean into it and understand how to adapt alongside of it, knowing that it's going to be a big part of what we do. And I think it could actually be a very powerful tool and weapon for writers. I mean, if you have writing fatigue or brain fog, imagine having your own mini writer's room. Like, if you picture it this way, imagine training an AI on everything you've ever written, and then you have this like AI agent helping you move through plot lines faster. So if you can see it as that AI is more like the typewriter, the thing that's going to allow you to take more risks and move quickly, that's where it can be an asset. But again, I will say, and I will be kind of frank, there are changes to the job market that are going to come as a result of this. And what AI is good at is being mediocre. And so in areas where it maybe didn't require the brains of the next Phantom thread, it maybe just required a SQL kind of lower budget or low lift. Those are the types of jobs that would be more at risk from artificial intelligence. It's not the Phantom threads of the world, but it's kind of anything that lies in like a bit more of a mediocre zone. That's what AI is really good at, being very, very average.
You know, right now, the notion of a computer, of AI, actively trying to help me write something sounds crazy to me, sounds frightening to me, sounds like that will never happen. And I don't know, maybe we'll revisit this segment in 5 or 10 years and be like, yeah, you were the crazy one, because that was absolutely going to happen. Sinead Bovell, thank you so much for your time. Futurist and founder of the tech education company, WAYE. Still ahead on theGrio, Marc has hosted numerous actors on this show, and many of them have made their position on this strike clear. We're going to let you hear it in their words coming up. But first, Black creators are creating their own opportunities to be on screen. We're going to talk to one creator about how she built an audience outside of Hollywood. Welcome back to theGrio. I'm Touré, in for Marc Lamont Hill, who has the day off. The organization that produces the Oscars is adding Keke Palmer to its membership roster. The Academy of Motion Pictures Arts and Sciences invited Palmer and several other A-list actors to join. We've known and loved Palmer since her 2006 turn starring in Akeelah and the Bee. She recently had a standout performance in Jordan Peele's Nope. This hour, of course, is dedicated to the Hollywood writer's strike. Black writers and creators hope new contracts will come with a bigger push for diversity. In 2021, 50% of new members of the Writers Guild of America identified as BIPOC. However, white men still hold the most high-level TV jobs, including 58% of showrunners and 64% of executive producers in 2020. According to the WGA, white male writers earned a median salary of $136,000. Asian writers earned a median of $116,000. Black writers got just $99,000, and Latino and Latina writers just $84,000. Some black creators are going their own way beyond Hollywood and creating opportunities for themselves to get through this system. Joining me now is one of them, Joel Z, a public historian, YouTuber, and book club founder. Welcome to the show. You have a membership on Patreon. How does that help you pay the bills while you get your message out?
Yeah, people pay money to get exclusive content from me, and it's still a lot of work, it's still a lot of labor, but it's creating a community that is deeply invested in the work that I do.
I mean, I had my podcast on Patreon for a while, and one of the things I found is that a lot of those folks are giving because they want to support the creator. They may or may not care about the extras that you're offering through Patreon. They like you, and they want to give you a tip or give you some money so you can keep doing your thing. Is that what you're finding?
I think it's a mix. Yeah, I think Patreon is both. You can have people that want to support you and they will give you their money, but outside is getting expensive. Late stage capitalism is eating us all up. I don't take for granted anybody that donates any tangible amount of money to me. And I don't necessarily rely on this idea that people just want to give money for the sake of supporting me. I do like to foster more of I don't like the word exclusive, but a more, as I said earlier, committed community via my Patreon.
Yeah, I think a lot about the path that Issa Rae took, starting with her YouTube show and then getting into bigger spaces in Hollywood. Do you think it's possible for more people to be like her, to be like you, using YouTube and perhaps even TikTok and other forms to bypass the traditional Hollywood platforms and create your own way of getting your message out to the people?
I think that's the messaging that these platforms would like to sell us. But I think when you actually get into the weeds of Issa Rae's story and how she started on YouTube and the copious amount of discussions that she had with the YouTube executive team trying to help her launch her her programming into a more mainstream format. YouTube dragged their feet. They lost a great opportunity with her. Then she went to HBO. That took almost a decade to get Insecure out. So it's not like she, there's a lot of labor that Issa and her team had to put into getting those sort of opportunities. And there's not a lot of equity that even was offered to Issa at the onset, even after creating Awkward Black Girl and, creating this huge audience and this deeply embedded audience around the work that she was producing. I think she still had a lot of struggles, and the way that the creator economy has transformed in the past 4 or 5 years has actually transformed in a way where there's less creator equity. I don't think the creator economy is an answer to the shortcomings of Hollywood. If anything, it definitely reinvests in a lot of the Hollywood, barriers. It just maybe creates a little bit more democracy for like the top, and that's what they promote. But honestly, no, I don't think that realistically is going to really open up the playing field for many people.
So the idea, the current American dream of like, I'm going to use YouTube to create content and that will get attention and money, and then maybe I'll be able to move into something else or just live on YouTube and making money on YouTube. Is that a pipe dream?
I don't think, the idea that YouTube AdSense pays the most money out of any of the social media apps, and they've actually broadened their creator, the rules to who is allowed into the AdSense programming. So it's now easier to get in, but that also means that the RPMs are lower. The money you're getting paid is less. And it's not, I think when you think about producing work as a creative, it's not simply about being able to monetize the work you do. There's other forms of equity that need to be given. And you think about who is actually able to become very successful as a content creator. Typically, these people come with a bevy of handlers behind them. They have talent agents, they have publicists, they have managers, they have lawyers, all these very traditional sort of agencies behind them that push them into that level of success are still required for someone to make it. And so you're getting the same sort of barriers to entry that you see in Hollywood that are being replicated in the social media landscape.
So, okay, you've built a community. I'm not sure if you have all the managers and lawyers that some of the other folks have, but I think you know how to build a community. So for other folks who want to be like you when they grow up, how do you build a community online?
You build a community online by understanding what you offer to an online community and being committed to that community, and avoid the trappings of trends and feeling like you have to change yourself in order to be a personality. And also, you need a personality. Everyone's not meant to live online. Some of us, it just ain't for us. But, be committed to the community and growing that community in an ethical manner. I think, most of us will do pretty okay.
Where can they find your Patreon?
Patreon.com/Julzy, Jouelzy, Julzy everywhere on the internet.
Beautiful. Julzy, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with your Patreon and everything else. Check out her book club, Smart Brown Girls, which focuses on making reading accessible. Next on theGrio, actors stand in solidarity with Hollywood writers. We'll hear it in their words. Welcome back to theGrio. I'm Touré, and for Mark, who has the day off. This entire show, we've been talking about the Hollywood writer's strike and the impact on film and TV. Mark has hosted several actors and actresses on this show who say, do the right thing.
Give people their money. Give people their residuals. Pay people. It's like the industry has moved and grown in so many directions, and you expect people to be like, oh yeah, you can grow, but just still pay me the same amount you've been paying me since the 90s. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. It's the same with the way people get paid on Broadway. It's like the prices, the housing market in New York has gone crazy, and people are still being paid the same amount that they were being paid in the 80s. But it's that cycle of, because not many people get the opportunity to do it, then you do take the job because that's what's going to give you leverage, that's what's going to give you a voice, that's what's going to get you in the room. But then it's like, but I'm not compensated well enough to only do the job I came here to do. Now I have to compensate myself in other ways, do other jobs, matrix work, to be able to have a full life, to live a full life. It's not fair. Pay them people.
We all in this industry now have to kind of see, what happens next. I mean, SAG is even ruling on also joining and striking. So we'll see how that plays into negotiations as well. There isn't a lot to report in terms of that. But what I do know is that, we're picked up for season 12. So whenever things work out and people are being adequately compensated for their work, we will be back in the writer's room and back on set. And
Amen.
then hopefully soon back on the screen.
Stay with us. I'll have the last word after this quick break. Family, I'm proud to do a whole show supporting the writers because I support the writers not just because I'm a writer like them, but because they're workers. It's easy to hear the term Hollywood writers and think of people gleefully pecking words by the pool as they sit. No. These are hard-working people who craft the dramas and comedies that we need to consume when it's our turn to unwind. The writers are people who help us thoughtfully confront the big issues in society or make us laugh when we need to. And in this instance, they're people using the power of their union, the WGA, to stand up for the rights of working people. The sense of what a union is and what a union does has been battered by the political right for decades, but unions are the entity that protects the common person when they try to stand up to the massive corporations. Unions make the common man and woman far more powerful. But for the Hollywood writers, there's something much more than money at stake. They are fighting to keep artificial intelligence from being used to take over their jobs, and that is a critical battle. I believe that computers and AI can never truly match the creativity of intelligent human beings. But I also believe that there's not a capitalist in Hollywood who wouldn't love to cut the writers out of the budget. For the good of the future of filmed entertainment and the writers of the future, the current writers have to keep fighting because we can't have humans cut out of the business of creating sophisticated entertainment for humans. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Touré. Have a great night.